Plaguespreader Priest, before we go any farther here, I just want to show you this excellent guide that I found for this deck. Plaguespreader Priest, to the best of my knowledge, is the deck that was actually created by TicTac. And then we've got a really great guide here by WickedGood. I'm going to have links to the socials for both TicTac and WickedGood in the description of the video. Highly encourage you to get out and follow them. They are very good at what they do. And we're going to take a quick look at this guide before we actually hop back over into the game here. So you'll be able to read through this on your own. I'm going to have a link to the guide itself also in the description of the video. But you can see here there's a general gameplay section. It's going to talk you through how you want to play the deck. And then as you scroll down here, deck code is going to be available right here, but I'll also have that as well as a mobile link in the description of the video. And then you can see it talks through the card inclusions, what the card is, and specifically what you might want to use it for in the deck. You see the full deck list here. And I would say that if you don't have the cards to be able to play this deck, just don't worry about it. So many of these cards are going to rotate very, very soon, so I could not ever recommend crafting this. Lots of cards are actually going to rotate. You can see it's a pretty expensive deck here as well. So don't worry about it if you can't make it. It's not that big a deal. But one thing that I would offer is that still read through this guide, even if you can't play the deck. You can kind of take notes for yourself on any deck that you want to play and structure it like this, like what the cards are good for, whether or not you want to keep them in the mulligan, why cards have been left out, as you can see here. So really just reading through the guide and understanding the very logical structure, this is something that you can do for yourself with your own decks that you're playing. So, you know, I think there's still a lot that can be learned here, even if you're not going to play this specific deck. You see here notable exclusions and tech choices. So WickedGood is talking about why cards are actually left out of the deck. There's a section on mulligans, what you want to keep, and in what matchups, always aggro, and then slower decks. And there's actually a lot of matchup specific information here against different archetypes. So we see like the 3 different Death Knight decks here. And then as you scroll down on through, you'll be able to find all the information that WickedGood was able to put together. So really just an amazing guide. I read through the guide. Probably, honestly, I never would have played this deck on the ladder if I hadn't found this guide. And then I read through it and thought, seems like fun. Let me give it a shot. So highly encourage you to read through this. Again, even if you're not interested in playing the deck, I do think there's a lot that you can learn here. Getting back to the game here, you can see against Demon Hunter, and taking a look at that guide, what we want against Demon Hunter is the hand disruption type stuff. So that means we really want Plaguespreaders, and we want the Bone Callers to be able to bring those back. The question is, are we keeping ETC here? It is nice with the ETC to potentially be able to hit a Theatar, but it feels like I think we actually want to mulligan this. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be a keep. Just the one Theatar, likely not going to be enough to help us be able to win this matchup, I don't think. And really what it comes down to is Jace. I think we can pretty well handle anything our opponent's going to throw at us, except for Jace after they've played a lot of their fell spells. Potentially also could be a problem if we run into like lots of spell power minions. You know, those Fell Barrage damages really start to add up, and even Unleash Fell can start to add up with multiple spell damage minions on the board. So we're really going to want the Plaguespreaders to be able to transform those and take away some of the power from our opponents here. Shard of the Nauru, this is going to be a trade. Happy to see that. Get a little bit deeper in the deck. And we're going to trade this amulet as well. You can see we get down to Light Bomb here. So we do know that the Lightmaw Nether Drake is going to be active here. And we see that our opponent does play the Relic of Phantasms. And now really the question is, do we want to take this damage, or do we just want to go ahead and clear it off with the Lightmaw Nether Drake? We could coin it out. Don't necessarily have anything to do next turn, unless we would top deck exactly like a Plaguespreader or a tradable. We can even just heal here. We could take this damage, save the Nether Drake, and we would have like Gift of the Nauru and Zarella to be another board clear. But I think really at the end of the day, we just don't want to take this damage. We want to take as little damage as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and invest the coin and clean up our opponent's side of the board here. It also gives us a minion to be able to trade with, or if our opponent wants to remove it with something like a Fell Barrage, then that'll be a Fell Barrage that's just gone and out of the way here. We see this is going to be an active Vizier, so we're going to want to keep in mind that our opponent does have a discounted spell. Until we see that, that's something that could be a little bit dangerous for us here. Shard again, we're just going to trade that away immediately. And you can see we've now hit a Plaguespreader, which is going to be good. So we're going to take this trade, we're going to heal up. And then next turn, we're going to go Undying Allies along with a Plaguespreader. So next turn, our opponent's next turn on turn 6, if they want to go Location with the Relic of Dimensions to draw a bunch of cheap cards, potentially we're going to have a Plaguespreader or 2 that we may be able to kill off to transform some of the minions in their hand. Of course, the more cards our opponent draws, the more likely it's going to be that they have those spell power minions, Jace, Bran, things like that in their hand that can be transformed. And we can see here that they actually hit an additional Relic of Phantasms, which is going to be pretty good for our opponent. We actually can't clear this board with Gift of the Nowroot just this moment, so I think we actually keep to our plan of Undying Allies and Plaguespreader. They will be able to kill both Plaguespreaders, but the fact that they use their location makes me think that they're not going to be playing a Relic of Dimensions anyway. So we can just take a trade and Undying Allies the Plaguespreader. They do have cards that they've been holding in their hand for a certain amount of time, so I think we still just want to get Plaguespreaders down. Having dead Plaguespreaders is going to be good in case we draw the Bone Callers, so on and so forth. So we're just going to take that trade, Undying Allies, and get down our Plaguespreader. And then we're going to pass to our opponent and see what they do here. So they do still have 6 cards in hand that could be minions. And again, any minion that's in their hand that gets transformed into a Plaguespreader is going to be good for us in this particular matchup.
Another happy guildie.
You can see they had a Guild Trader. They got rid of it so that it wouldn't get transformed. Some versions of this deck only run 1 Guild Trader.
Gifts of the arcane surge with
And we see the Arcanist come down. So it's good for us to be able to get this out of our opponent's hands, and then they're just going to push damage with everything else that they have left. So no guarantee that we transformed anything. In fact, I think you see the animation if something does transform. So the good news here is we can remove their entire board with Gift of the Nowru Zarella, so that's going to be 1 spell damage minion gone, and it's going to clean things up pretty nicely here, so that's definitely what we want to do here. Zarella's going to be hitting for 6. And we see Clean the Scene. We actually want to play Clean the Scene rather than Zarella. Clean the Scene is going to leave them with a 4/4 still on the board. I think we would rather have our own minion on the board, save Clean the Scene, even though as their minions continue to get bigger, they're going to have 1 more Relic of Phantasms. This is likely not going to be all that useful going forward in the game. But again, just not wanting to take that 4 damage because of the potential that our opponent has to be able to deal damage with their deck. And then we're going to pass it back. The 4 damage could actually be pretty meaningful here. We don't want to take too much damage. We can see their kept card was a Chaos Strike. They created the Sunwell, so now they have a lot of random spells in hand. Looking for some value in this particular matchup. And then we actually have the Midah come down. 1 Relic of Extinction played, lots of random stuff. I wonder if we just want to go ahead and get this in play. It's healing if our opponent can't remove it. Other option is just to get down the Light Shower Elemental here. I think it's actually better to just get down the Midah at this point. We'll see what our opponent does here. If this gets to attack, or every time this gets to attack, it's going to heal us. Our opponent targeting it with one of their random spells. So this game is getting ready to take a turn for the silly here. Moonbeam. And second Relic of Extinction. And then we see the Relic of Phantasms coming down here, so we are going to have to Light Bomb this, and just the fact that it's a Hunter Trap, I think we're going to have to attempt to play around Ice Trap, otherwise we just die. So I'm going to have to play the Undying Allies here, basically just throw it away. And unfortunately we see that's not the case, but it could also be Motion Denied, which is going to be 6 damage here, so we're going to have to be careful of that. And then we're going to pass it back to our opponent. So Artificer Zymox is still going to be something that could cause us quite a bit of problems. We're almost going to have second Light Bomb to be able to deal with it when it comes down because of the big minions that it's going to be able to summon. And again, in addition to like the random stuff that's been created by our opponent, we're still going to have to keep in mind just the regular way that we lose this matchup. Again, they're dealing damage. We see a gift of the Nauru, so I'm just going to go ahead and get down the Light Shower. And the zombies is going to totally be cleared off by this, so at least we do know that it's not motion denied. That kind of frees us up to be able to play additional cards in a turn. And we hit the Sir Finley, so this particular hand could be a good case to Sir Finley and get some cards off the bottom of our deck. Zarella would be really good. We're likely going to need second Light Bomb. And you can see our opponent's actually going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage with the hero card here as well. Unfortunately, they're going to be able to push through a lot of damage. This is infused. The 7/4 is not going to die here. Could cannibalize. That gives us quite a bit of healing. Could just be, I think we start with Gift of the Nauru, and potentially we can just cannibalize the 7/4 to be able to heal up. And this allows us to draw an additional card, though. And we actually hit the Midah, which is really good for us here. Our opponent's going to have a harder time removing that. And now at this point, we really wish that we had the Undying Allies, but we wanted to make sure that we checked for Ice Trap just so that we wouldn't be dead. So I think we can actually just cannibalize. It's going to be a nice big heal for us. And then Hero Power. And then we're going to pass the turn here. Right back to our opponent. So again, our opponent's going to be able to push a lot of damage with the Hero Power any turn that they have minions on the board. And so we're really still just worried about the Artificer. And then, you know, small wide boards like this aren't going to be an issue with the infused Clean the Scene as well as the Undying Disciple. And no Relic of Dimensions from our opponent yet either, so any cards that they draw from Relic of Dimensions are going to be absolutely free. The other unfortunate thing is going to be that if we Clean the Scene, we're actually going to be removing our own Midah. But we can actually get a pretty significant heal just with the Blackwater Behemoth. So we can bump here, and I'm going to go ahead and get down the Behemoth. And then I think we actually buff the Behemoth. That's going to actually heal us for 10. And we can afford to actually just take a trade here. Again, just looking for other stuff. And this is going to heal us back to full. So we have lots of lifesteal minions on the board. Both Relic of Extinction's gone. They do still have 2 random spells here, but all of the lifesteal minions on the board kind of protect us from like a Lady Setheno style play. So we're happy to see that. And again, just worried about the Artificer Zymox here. The big minions that are going to be created, we don't really have a way to be able to answer those. We could drown 2 of them, but then there would still be potentially an 8/8 on the board, I think, at this point. They're going to push through as much damage as they can here, but the question is, can they deal with these guys? Because as long as the lifesteal is on the board, we're continuously going to be healing, which is going to be really good for us. And then the Undying Disciples are going to help protect our face as well. And you can see they're actually trading into this, so again, that's good for us. It doesn't really matter. I don't think we're going to be able to pressure our opponent's life total. We're really just trying to outlast all of the damage that they can do. And we see a Prince Renathal here. So not really super attractive options. Again, we could just Sir Finley here, but I wonder if our hand is actually just good enough. We do have infused Clean the Scene. 20 cards left. We'd be able to grab the bottom 6. But I think we're going to be okay with an Undying Disciple. Then I'm just going to go ahead and play the Renathal, and I'm going to push face here. So we don't have to take this trade because when this dies, the AoE damage is going to remove the 4/3, which is going to be good for us. The next turn we potentially have like second Undying Disciple along with the location buff, which may be able to remove a board. And our opponent actually going in with the Lady Sethino now. But most of the Sethino damage is actually hitting minions here. So we do take some damage. But we're still in okay shape. 2 friendly Death Rattle minions would resurrect likely... there's a couple of Plaguespreaders, I think, in the graveyard right now. 1 Undying Disciple, as well as a Light Shower Elemental. And 2 of those could actually be pretty good for us here. And we have the option to just drown the Lady Sethino. We definitely, I think, either want to get down an Undying Disciple or just totally remove this. But I think it's worth it just to get 2 minions off of the amulet here. It should be just fine. We'll see what we hit. And we actually get a Midah back as well. So I think we can actually buff. We're going to drop the buff on the Midah. And you can see we hit Zarella. That's going to be really good for us as well. I feel like we actually just drown the Lady Sethino here. But really, we don't even have to. If I play the second Undying Disciple, I think that means that Zarella is going to be a board clear if they Zymox. So we're going to make the play like that. It's important to keep in mind how many of these have died, and then when you play the Zarella, all the Death Rattles going back off. That's going to be additional fragments going into the deck. It's going to be the board clearing damage off of the Undying Disciples. It's going to be healing off of Light Shower Elemental, so it can be potentially a lot to keep up with. But we always want to keep those things in mind as we're playing this deck. That clears the Sethino. And then we should be able to get some healing from the Midah here. And then really nice top deck there. We're going to be able to heal quite a bit. So putting a lot of pressure on our opponent now. Once the Zymox comes down, we're just going to go ahead and Zarella, which should clear the board really nicely. And just having these minions on the board is going to be a nice buffer against like Spell Power and Jace plays. And we still haven't seen Relic of Dimensions to be able to discount our opponent's stuff here. And they're likely holding this location buff for Relic of Dimensions. So an unfortunate draw for our opponent. Both Relic of Dimensions towards the bottom here. And we're just going to continue to draw more cards. And I'm going to buff the Midah again. This is our lifesteal minion, so that's what we'll buff. You can see we're actually able to win this game. So a nice little control game there. Our opponent did have a bad draw, but we were able to keep things under control and close out the game. That's going to do it for this video. Highly encourage you to go and check out that deck guide by WickedGood. It's really, really good, and it'll help you if you're going to be playing this deck. I'm Uncorrupt. Thank you for watching.